Hello, hello, you guys, and welcome to another story time brought to you by ABC. Read and ABC Learn, in which I am here to help you develop and nurture that love of reading in every child as well as every adult, with a particular focus on our Black children, Black adults, Black families here in America and across the globe. That's what's going on. I hope that you all are doing absolutely phenomenal, whatever time it is, wherever you are. All right. And I hope that you all have read or your plan is to read for at least 30 minutes. That is so what's up. Yes, it is. Reading is so what's up. It should be high on your value ladder. What do I mean by that? Just like how you treasure your health, your family, your wealth, where you live. You should also make sure that you treasure reading. All right. You make sure that you show your kids that reading is valuable. And I'm talking in particular right now to my parents out there and caregivers. Make sure that you show them that reading is important. Even if you're not able to read a physical book at the time, there are also books on audio. All right. You can get some books out of the library, take them out. As we know, they are free from the library, and you check out those books. Check out physical books as well as books on audio. All right. You can get plenty of children's books. You can get plenty of adult books, and you make sure that you expose your children to the wonderful world of reading. Because I'm here to tell you, especially, and this is why I make sure that I say my emphasis is on Black families. It's because when you still continue to see this research out here and studies showing that Black kids are not reading on the levels that they should be, I have a problem with that because I know our history. And I know that our history and African civilizations like Timbuktu and other Egyptian civilizations, different civilizations in Africa, Black people were very literate. They valued knowledge. It was a point in time where you had books when you had different kingdoms, like I said, like Timbuktu, books were up there valued just like gold or even more so. All right. So we come from a legacy of people who were reading and who value literacy. And for real, these are the things that we have to tell our children because, see, a lot of times that narrative is put out there that, these Black kids, they don't really want to read. They don't like that, go to the library and take out books. They only want to go to the library and play on the computer, which I will say, unfortunately, I do see that. I see that firsthand. All right. But we got to understand, where did that come from? Well, that came from the slave plantation and even before, because those white supremacist slave owners made sure they said, you better not read or write. And if I catch you trying to learn to read or write, you're going to get your fingers cut off. You're going to get flogged, whipped. You're going to get killed. So that fear was instilled in our ancestors that no, you cannot read and write. You cannot learn to read and write, period. Even though, again, like I said, our ancestors come from a history of being well read. You had griots, which were people who were in the African villages who were telling stories. All right. So this is a history we come from, but it got disrupted when our ancestors were enslaved, when they were captured, when they were kidnapped. All right. And so one of the ways in which you can stop a person from growing is tell them that, no, you can't learn, you can't read, you can't write. No, I don't want you doing that. If I catch you doing that, I'm going to kill you. These are the things we got to tell our children, because it ain't just a thing to where all of a sudden Black people, they got to a point in life where, oh no, they didn't want to read, or this is why, they're struggling with reading because, see, they struggling with really valuing learning. No, that's not true. That's not true. And this is why I hope that you understand this is the message that we're trying to bring across here. This is why you all are here. And I can go on, but I'm going to stop right now because speaking of reading, I want to go ahead and get into the story. All right. And this is our story here today. All right. And it is called Freedom River. The author, her name is Doreen Rappaport. The pictures are by Brian Collier, Brian Collier, all right? And you all look at that cover, that gorgeous, gorgeous cover, and make some predictions. What do you think this story is about to be about? What is it going to talk about here in this story? Well, you got the word freedom and you got river, right? And freedom is what? Freedom means that you have the choice to do as you please. Okay? Now, understand, of course, with choices we make, there are consequences for sure. Meaning there are going to be whatever choice that you make, that means that there's going to be a result that comes out of that choice. So always, always choose what is right. All right, so let's get started and let's go in here into this awesome book. Here's the title page right here. All right, loving and loving Freedom River. Freedom River is the name of the book. Before the Civil War, Kentucky was a slave state and Ohio a free state. In the 1800s, the Ohio River was less than 1,000 feet wide at Ripley, Ohio. Runaway slaves from Kentucky followed the Maysville Road to the river and then swam or were rowed across it to freedom. Sympathetic whites and blacks in Ripley hid the fugitives and then transported them farther north. John Parker was a successful business person and one of Ripley's most active conductors on the Underground Railroad. He had been born a slave and earned enough money to buy his freedom. But he never forgot the pain of being taken from his mother's loving arms when he was 8 years old. This is a true story of one of his journeys into Kentucky to help an African American family escape to freedom. Listen, listen. I heard last night someone helped a slave woman cross the river, said one of the workers at John Parker's foundry. John Parker couldn't take credit for this escape, but it pleased him enormously to hear about it. Maybe Mr. Parker helped them escape, said Jim Schroff, an iron molder. My father says he's helped hundreds. Jim raised his voice. I dare him to cross the river and try to steal my father's slaves, taunted Jim. If he does, my father will set the dogs on him and rip him to shreds. John knew if he crossed the river, he might end up dead. There was a $1,000 reward for him, dead or alive, in Kentucky. But he couldn't let that stop him. Slavery was too evil. He had to keep helping others, no matter what the risk. A week later in November, when the moon was but a sliver, John rode across the Ohio River to the Schroff plantation. Wait, wait, listen, listen. Only crickets and bullfrogs breaking the silence of the fall night. Suddenly, footsteps, closer, louder. The crescent moon illuminated a black man. John approached him and touched him. I have a boat waiting to row you across the river to freedom, he whispered. I can't go, the man stammered. I can't leave my wife and baby. Without warning, the man screamed and ran away. Suddenly, a white man swinging a club charged at John. John ducked. The man dropped his weapon and grabbed John around the waist. Down, down, the man wrestled him to the ground and punched him in the face. John grabbed a handful of dirt and threw it into the man's eyes. Run, run, back to the river, back to his skiff. Row, row, away from the slave state of Kentucky to the free state of Ohio. December came and brought patches of ice on the river. In January, the river froze. Rowing across it was impossible now. Jim Shroff continued to taunt John that he was too scared to go after his father's slaves. John didn't answer his taunts. He practiced being patient as he waited for spring. In April, when the river thawed, he returned to the plantation, even more determined. Wait, wait, listen, listen. The moon shone on the man John had seen in November. John followed him into a cabin. I've come back for you and your family. Leave Isaac and me alone, said the man's wife, Sarah. Since you came last fall, Master Shroff watches our every move. He took my baby from me and makes her fall asleep every night at the foot of his bed. Isaac, sneak into his room while he sleeps and take her, John urged. Too dangerous, said Isaac. The master keeps a loaded pistol at his side and swears he will kill her, anyone who comes for her. John shuddered at Shroff's cruelty, for he knew the baby's parents loved her too much to leave her behind. He returned home, but he could not sleep that night. He felt responsible for Sarah being separated from her baby. He had to get this family to freedom. The next night he rowed across the river again. He tied his skiff to a wooden post and untied the other boat there. He smiled as it drifted away. Get up, get up. John shook Isaac and Sarah from sleep. Go away, leave us alone, Sarah begged. I know you are afraid, but trust me. I will get your child out of Shroff's bedroom, John said. No, no, it will never work, Sarah said. He will kill you and my baby. It will work, John insisted. Wait for me in the woods. If you hear gunshots, run back to your cabin. He took off his shoes. Isaac, hold these until I return. John hurried to the main house, into the pantry, into the kitchen. There was no sign of the vicious guard dogs Jim Shroff had threatened him with. Into the hall. Ahead, light seeped from under the door of Shroff's bedroom. John tiptoed toward it. Still, no dogs. He held his breath. The Lord must be watching over me, he thought. He gently pushed the door open. On the far side of the room, a candle flickered. Shroff and his wife were sleeping. A pistol rested next to the candle. John clutched the gun in his pocket. He listened for the breathing of Shroff and his wife. It was regular and smooth. He relaxed a bit. He saw the baby sleeping at the foot of the bed. She was no more than 5 feet away, but she seemed unreachable. Crawl, crawl. The floor creaked slightly as he inched toward the child. 3 feet more. Schroff tossed restlessly in his sleep. 2 feet. 1 foot. John scooped up the baby and threw her pillow at the candle. The room went dark. The pistol clinked to the floor. Schroff awakened with a start. Run, run! Down the hall, to the kitchen, through the pantry, out the door. The baby started crying. There was no time to soothe her. John heard Schroff's running feet and cursing mouth close behind. Run, run! Down the road, to the water, to the skiff. Isaac and Sarah ran close at John's heels. Gunshots rang out in the air behind them. John untied his boat. Get in and lower your heads, he ordered. Sarah clutched her baby. More gunfire. Faster, faster. John pulled the oars and ignored the flashes of gunfire from the Kentucky side. When the oars hit the Ohio shore, John sighed. He had tempted fate and won. He hurried his passengers onto shore. Isaac, my shoes. I dropped them when I was running. No time to worry now. Run, run to the safe house. In minutes, the family was hidden under straw in a wagon, to be driven farther north by the next conductor on the Underground Railroad. John was barely home when there was a banging at his front door. He walked slowly downstairs. Who is it? He asked. Jim Schroff. John opened the door and pretended surprise. Why are you here? Jim pushed John's shoes into his face. To exchange your shoes for my father's slaves. I've never seen those shoes before, and I don't want them, said John indignantly. His tone turned gracious. But you are welcome to come in and look for your missing slaves. Jim gripped the shoes tightly in his hands and searched room after room. He banged closet doors, knocked on walls, pulled out drawers, and threw clothing on the floor. John did not care about the noise or the mess, for the longer Jim searched, the greater the head start for Sarah, Isaac, and their child. Listen, listen. I heard someone rowed a slave family across the river last night, said one of John's workers. John waited to hear what Jim Schroff would say. He did not hear his voice. Jim had not reported to work this morning. He never returned to work for John Parker. The end. Oh my goodness. Awesome. 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 Showing you guys the front cover and the back cover. Again, a great, great story of freedom. Freedom River, y'all. These are the stories that I love to read because as we understand and we know again that yes, African Americans here in this country and around the globe, we understand what it means to be discriminated against and we understand what it means to be enslaved. And so when I read these different stories about courage, freedom, taking risks to fight for your freedom, to gain your freedom, these are the stories that not only empower me, but I know they are empowering our future generations. So don't be ashamed of your past. And I'm talking to my Black children. Don't be ashamed of the fact that our ancestors were enslaved. Because just as you saw and just as you heard in this story, that you had Black people who did what they can to get out that horrible, horrible thing called slavery. All right, you all, please remember to like, subscribe, and share our videos. And make sure you continue to read for at least 30 minutes a day. Happy reading. Peace.